because there aren't that many online tournaments, they have been shipped away from the West, unfortunately. We are bringing them back to you guys with the first iKailaCup, an unofficial tournament that we are going to be starting doing it every now and then. No concrete schedule on that quite yet, but if this goes well, hopefully we can increase the pace of those. Are you excited for today?
Yeah, I'm excited. OP17 looks really, really fun, and it seems like they have started. So let's get right into the game.
Yes, very exciting game. I'll work on getting the timer up on the screen, but it is going, and I don't even know how to start, how to approach this matchup because there's a whole lot of things that you have to think about if you're going against a deck like Foxy where you just don't really know what exists within their deck. Yes, you know that there's Foxy Pirates, you imagine things like Portia come out, but you don't really know the dome curve that they're going to end up playing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely think it can be a very interesting matchup in general. We do see that the Rocks player is playing Shueisha, which leads me to believe that they're going to be a little bit more Rocks focused. That does seem to be one of the cards you try to cut early when you are ending up playing some of those other uh, cards like the Usopp event.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I'm surprised to see that card, honestly, but it's definitely a card that is just very strong in general. That should work. I'm still figuring out how to get the timer on screen. It was working before, but yeah, Rock's just going to start with the double Streusel, just getting that consistency, making sure that he finds the cards. One thing about this deck is that it draws a lot of cards, honestly, but it doesn't have very many searchers. So although you dig through your deck quite hard, it doesn't always mean that you're going to end up actually finding your pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see that here because this is actually Rock's second turn. He is going first, which is going to be somewhat nice for the deck, but not having a 3-drop definitely seems a little bit difficult. He might have access to Kill, but Kill also seemingly not particularly strong in this matchup. There are not a ton of KO effects that I would traditionally associate with Foxy, unless they do opt to run the other new Tenkas Kaido that does have that negate and KO effect.
Yeah, and just an update on the timer. I, for some reason, cannot figure out how to do that anymore, but we will keep an eye on that so you can trust us to keep track of time. But yeah, just beginning of this game, we are going to just play out our characters, but playing out these one-cost searchers, the Searcher Porche, I believe that came out in EB04,
Mhm.
is actually very good for Foxy because it not only is just a searcher, which is going to be a great consistency tool, but importantly, he's already fulfilled the condition for his leader effect, which probably doesn't want to use this early on, but does have the option to.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point it just comes down to can our Rocks player draw some copies of Wang Zi, right? We did see he discarded the Captain John, which does make it a little bit more likely that he isn't running 4 copies of Wang Zi. Uh, it really just doesn't comes down to if you can't get rid of those characters, you are going to, be locked into just not having a leader ability for the. And this Foxy's curve is insane.
he's he's definitely finding the little guys, and little guys are hopefully going to keep chaining into the bigger characters to actually be able to close out the game. Because Rocks, once he gets that 10 dong turn, plays down that 10 cost Rocks, is going to be able to do some pretty scary things. 19 dong for 10 dong, not something that's unheard of considering that Emu can do 27 for 4, but
Yeah.
still very, very powerful.
I mean, but we are seeing, that early acceleration coming out from our Foxy player, which is going to be extremely strong. We do see Kaido's as well, so he might just not have access to Wang Zi in his deck. I will try and pull that up right now.
Yeah. Yeah, we've seen the Captain John, we've seen the Kaido. That Captain John can be used in a very scary combo in tandem with the Usopp event, which has a quite long name, something about you can't laugh at my friends or something like that. But it turns out that Usopp's friends are actually the Rocks Pirates when it comes to this deck, because that combo, when you use the 4-cost, oh, bit of glare on that card, but hopefully we'll forget what that is momentarily. I do believe it was a Gloriosa, because the Itomimizu is now off the screen.
Yes,
But
then that should be a glorious. Itomimizu getting off the board is definitely going to be a huge, boon for our Rocks player. But it really just comes down to can he ever get rid of the Weenie Onslaught? Because if he can't, he's just not going to have a leader ability. Probably starting this turn, depending on if he has access to 7 Foxy or not. I would say.
yeah, I mean, he may have delayed it by 1 turn by getting rid of that Itomimizu. It feels a little bit painful to return 3 Dong when you can potentially only ramp 1 after the Foxy. So is just going to go for the 5k despite having that Foxy, and will just ramp and probably start using his leader effect from that next turn, which is definitely going to hurt Manoli a lot in this matchup.
Yeah, and just taking a little bit of a look at Manoli's deck list, he is running 0 copies of Wang Zi, only running, his 4 costs as that Kaido and that Captain John, as well as Gloriosa, opting to go for a focus on the Friend's Dream, that Usopp event, making sure that your John can never be KO'd, and creating kind of a situation where you can almost do like a fog from magic, just making sure that they can't do any damage to you, which is of course very strong in a lot of different matchups, but in this matchup in particular, not being able to get rid of all the Foxy characters means that your leader is just going to completely lose its effect starting likely this turn.
Yeah, I mean, the one of the biggest strengths of this Rocks deck is going to be the fact that it can draw 2 cards per turn, but Foxy is just perfectly situated to just deal with that. Yes, it doesn't have as many powerful characters, and Rocks has the ability to put on some incredible characters like that Newgate, like that Shiki, but if your leader can't attack, you can't use half of Newgate's effect.
Exactly, and we also haven't seen a ton of big characters coming out yet. I think because Manoli hasn't been able to play one of those attacking characters yet. We did see Hayden not opt to use the leader effect of Foxy quite yet. I do think we're going to start seeing that probably this turn, depending on if we get 10 cost Kaido or an 8 cost Foxy. Something to make sure that he's going to be able to constantly loop it every turn.
Yeah, and there it is, the Foxy that will be able to rest one of Rox's characters, and then in tandem with that leader effect, we'll be able to stun it as well. One thing of note is that Rox's curve right now, basically like he's going second. He played a 4-drop into a 6-drop Newgate, and it's one of the strengths of Rox when he goes first is being able to play that 5 Castellana on that 5-down turn, but wasn't able to find it, wasn't able to find that Shiki, and now isn't even going to be able to use this Rox attack as it's going to be stunned very soon, I imagine.
Yeah, and I think we're definitely seeing the strength of Foxy come in right now, being able to stun that Newgate, stun that leader, and now, it's just what do you do from here as the Rocks player?
I mean, I think he's still in a pretty fine spot. Yes, Foxy has a couple of characters on the board, but it's only 7,000 and 9,000 power character. Rocks is a very resilient deck, especially as we have seen that he runs that Captain John, potentially even running the Usopp combo as well to make that really ironclad defense. But because he can't use his leader effect, he will have to actually put pressure on Foxy and close out the game on his own accord. The only character that Foxy can't necessarily deal with, the 8 cost Foxy that is going to be that 10 cost Rocks. So maybe if you can chain those, maybe you can just get a lot of hits on Foxy, then he can just fall over. It is a pretty old leader after all.
I mean, that is true. I do think, though, only being able to get through 2 life so far makes it a little bit of a, difficult mountain to climb, if you will. Maybe if he had access to that 5 cost Lean early, he might have been able to get through 1 more life overall. But, with 3 life, it definitely feels like Foxy has a lot of room to play with, and because of that leader ability, he's also going to have a lot of time to slowly overcome his Rocks opponent.
Yeah, and a lot of times with Foxy, even if you give him time, a lot of times he just keeps playing out these 7 or 8 cost Foxies. But this deck in OP17 does have the 10 cost Kaido, so that with all of the Foxy that he has on the board, he's always going to be able to go up to that 10 Dong turn every single turn, no matter how much Dong he ends up decelerating. So I think there's a lot of really cool things. There's obviously the slow beam sword, which was intended to be used in Foxy, but a lot of purple decks run that.
It's just a really good card.
It is a very, very good card. And, the 2 active Dome that you're going to be getting back from that Foxy, or even the 10 cost Kaido, will be able to chain into that very, very well. So a great way to stop some of the aggression that Manoli needs to put on. But right now is just going to keep developing a Shiki on that 9 Dong turn, and is going to swing with it 9 into the 7,000 power Foxy.
Is he
rush.
opting to discard?
I think he's definitely thinking about it. These discards do hurt a bit more because he doesn't have his leader effect, but just getting rid of that Foxy might be pretty helpful. Reducing it down to 4,000 power would most assuredly kill it.
Absolutely, and I think there is, definitely something to be said for making sure that your opponent isn't able to constantly refresh their Dawn. That being said, yeah, he is going to opt for reducing by 3,000. And I think that's going to be a take, but it's still, you're not progressing the board state, right? Foxy is still going to be able to just keep crashing into your leader while also playing big characters down. Hopefully, we see something like a 10 cost Kaido soon.
Yeah, I mean, this would be the turn to play it down. The Tenka Kaido would do a whole lot in this matchup, just being a huge blocker. Remember back in the day when Aramaki was the largest blocker in the game, that felt crazy.
Yep.
Now we have 12,000 power blockers, and they're not even that uncommon at this point.
It does seem like it is going to be another one of those 8 cost Foxies, which is, of course, also going to be strong, be able to rest the Gloriosa, put a little bit more pressure on the leader. It seems like, rather than going for the 10 cost Kaido play, it is just going to be trying to pressure the opponent down, and make it in time.
Yeah, and that Gloriosa did get rid of the Itomimizu, which did stop Foxy from ramping, at least for one turn, but when you're at 10 dong, it doesn't really matter at this point, and that Gloriosa is just going to die to one of the Poroche hits. So you really wish that that could have been a 5-cost mom.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 5 cost mom definitely would have been a little bit more resistant, getting some more cards. I think especially in this matchup, because they are so it's so hard for your opponent to discard cards when that 5 cost mom comes out when you're facing rocks. Just being able to get access to those extra cards early when you know that you're eventually going to lose your leader ability seems like a very strong choice in this matchup in particular. Although, of course, it is strong in almost any matchup going first.
Yeah, indeed. And at the very least, though, Foxy's already been having a lot of fun being at 10 dong. Also, crazy dong cards, I must say. The alt art leader Hodies. I was trying to figure out exactly what that was for quite a while, but I think he has 10 alt art Hodies
Yeah, he
as
has
his
10
dong
altar
cards,
hoodies.
which is a crazy aura move,
He's
thankfully.
just a guy.
Yeah, didn't ask if
Certified
that was
guy.
allowed, but I guess it is allowed. So, if you're Hayden, then you're allowed to do that, I guess. So he is just going to keep putting on the pressure with that Foxy. Thankfully, though, Rux does still have these effects, though the characters cannot become active. That Shiki, that is, you can still use the on attack effect from the opponent to minus 3,000 power one of their characters. So still pretty tanky, just doesn't have the hand size that he wishes that he could have had as Rocks.
Absolutely. It seems like, Rox's defensive capabilities aren't really changed, other than the fact that, you're just losing the amount of cards that you can draw every turn. But it definitely significantly hurts your offensive capabilities. By disabling the leader, you're losing that Newgate effect effectively. By stunning the Shiki, you're losing Shiki's effect. We do see a second Shiki come down, so he might still be able to, clear the board a little bit and make some progress, but how many cards is Rux still going to be able to have? I think is kind of the issue, right?
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the issues, but if you can manage to get rid of the 8 cost Foxy here, now down to 6,000 power, also has an 8,000 power attack lined up with that Newgate, I think that you'll still be in a relatively good spot to actually take out, or you'll still be fine in this game if you manage to take out that Foxy, but Hayden does not want to let that go.
Yeah, which does make a lot of sense. Just, even here being able to keep your Dawn up. Foxy, even though he does have that disabling ability, that locking ability, in this matchup, because 12 cost Rux comes out and because you are going to have access to that unblockable event, it is surprisingly, in a longer game, favored for the Rock side. So I do think it's smart to, find this little spot that he wants to say, I'm going to protect my characters. I'm going to use my resources now. I still have a lot of life, and just try to go for game probably in this next turn. Not this turn, but the next turn.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been saying, Foxy has a really good time against Rox's leader, but Rox, his strengths is just building up this board of massive characters, and Foxy's leader effect can only stun one of those characters. So now one of those Shikis is basically guaranteed to be active on the next turn. And with that Shiki and hopefully enough cards in hand, he will be able to start to win back board control, as Foxy has not been able to build up a huge board playing down that 7 cost Foxy on this turn.
Yeah, it definitely feels like without the 10 cost Kaido, you are kind of forced into trying to go for a bit of a faster game. 7 cost Foxy is going to at least, allow yourself to reduce the power of your opponent's characters, but it's a little bit, hard when they're still gigantic.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this kind of being the Foxy show, but all of the characters are just massive. It's crazy that that 10 cost rock gets to stay on the field. It's not something like on play, trash this character and play 2 cards. Nope, you just draw another card, you keep the 12,000 power character, and you also play down a massive character like that Shiki.
Our in player is still crying about not being able to play his deck anymore. Poor guy. I'm so sorry you lost your favorite boy.
They should let me keep the 12,000 power on the board, or they should give Ema 5 life, I think, at this point.
At this point, I think you could almost give him a 5 life.
Yeah, I think at this point we're okay.
At this point, we're probably okay.
Yeah, maybe we should have made rocks 4 life, though. We could just balance everyone down to Ema's level.
I don't think Rock should be 4 life. I think 5 is probably okay, seeing as he has effectively no counter.
Yes, no, he is a deck that is very good at drawing cards, but those cards don't always mean that they translate to counter. Yes, when you have this many new gates and shikis on the board, they basically are all guard points, which is crazy considering that every single card in your hand can be a plus 3,000 counter. But until you get to this point in the game, those cards in your hand are complete bricks. So, I mean, it's an upside and a downside, but once you get to this point as, I almost said Foxy, rocks, then you're starting to feel very good.
Yeah, and we do see that probably going to be able to get down to 1 life. I don't think he's going to be able to get this next life. I think there will be, you know, still Shiki effects available. This is going to be the last effect. I think we'll probably protect this just because, I mean, if you take this, I don't think you're going to be able to go for game next turn with only 4 attacks effectively. And that's including Streusen, so.
Yeah, no, one of the characters as well as the leader will not be able to attack on that next turn. But the nice thing here is that Manoli does have the ability to clear out the opponent's board somewhat confidently as his board is getting bigger and bigger, but continuously they're going to keep costing cards from his hand. So the biggest question now is how many cards does Rox have left, because that's the most important resource and he's just not able to use it with that leader effect being denied every single turn.
Yeah, and we're seeing great play by our Foxy Hayden. You know, having 2 down up, that is threatening the beam sword, and you want to attack first with Shiki because it has that reduction effect before you attack with your rocks. But if you do that, beam sword is just going to rest your biggest character on the field. So this kind of creates a very hard conundrum where it seems very likely that he's going to be able to at least keep one of his Voxies on the board.
Yeah, and I like this. He's just starting with a 12,000, I would imagine, at the Foxy to see if he can manage to get that Slow Beam Sword out of his hand, and will be using it. So that means that one of Manoli's characters will be rested, will be choosing that Shiki to deny the minus 2,000 power, but still has to deal with the rest of this 12,000 power attack. Gives a 1 and 1. So 3 cards out of hand off of that attack.
Yeah, but I mean, just being able to stop the Shiki, stop that reduction, you only have access to the new gate now. If you're attaching down to the new gate, that means the Tinko's Rocks isn't coming out, which means you're feeling very comfortable going into this last turn. I think just in general, it feels like a very comfortable position for Hayden right now.
I think that's fair. It really comes down to just how many cards Manoli has in his hand right now. But yeah, he is just going to be slapping 4 Dong, I believe, onto that new gate, swinging into the Voxy to make sure that it goes down. Hayden probably suffering for 2Ks at this point, considering that he gave 2 1Ks on the attack before. And now if Manoli can just sort of lock down the board, oh, there's the Captain John.
There's the Captain John.
And that's one way to lock down the board. I was thinking it may have been something like a Stussy or a Gloriosa, but that Captain John will make it so that you have to attack into that Captain John before you attack into any other character.
And we do have the 2 down up, which does probably mean that that Usopp event is going to come out, stopping his opponent from getting him this turn. It's also going to mean that he's going to have a full board of characters. His opponent only has 3 life. This might be the way to try and find, you know, an answer to this Foxy deck.
Yeah, I'm honestly even surprised that he has enough cards in his hand to pull off this combo. Like, a lot of the times when you get into these situations where you're just dumping so many cards, especially considering that you're not drawing many cards, as in 0 cards, off of your leader effect, you're just continuously hemorrhaging resources out of your hand, but still has enough cards in his hand to confidently go for this combo, and is going to be using it. The Usopp event to make it so that none of his characters can be KO'd in battle this turn, lest he trashes 1 card from his hand.
Yeah, I think he is going to just end up using all of the cards in his hand and going for lethal next turn. Seems extremely strong this turn for sure, I would say.
I mean, one thing I will say, I don't want to critique the players all too much, is that if you are going to go for this play, you need to close out the game the turn after that, because you're just going to lose every card in your hand. So if those attacks, instead of going into the 9,000 power Foxy, just went into leader to actually set up for lethal, he may have been able to translate that into a win. But given that Foxy still has his leader effect, it may still be a little bit far from Manoli.
I mean, that is true. He does have enough attacks. He's going to have access to, 4 characters, all that are going to be above 5k power. His opponent does not have a lot of life available, but he has 6 Dawn up.
Yes.
Oh, and he's going to play that out. And it is going to be a 7 Dawn, I'm sorry. And it's going to be another Foxy, which means all of those characters are reduced by 2,000.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's actually 100% true. Very annoying to deal with. That minus 1,000 power starts to stack up once you get multiple on the board. And now, without one of those attacks, that 10 cost rocks that can be stunned by the leader effect, though it cannot be rested by the 8 cost Foxy. But, I mean, if Manoli wants to go for lethal on this turn, he needs to use that Captain John and break through with every single attack that's on the board. Thankfully, this time, I will say Hayden does not have too long active for that slow beam sword, so there is a chance.
Yeah, I mean, there's seemingly not a ton of cards in hand. I think Rocks right now, Manoli has 3 cards in hand, which means he's definitely not going to be able to effectively use that 2-cost event again. I think, yeah, he just has to go for lethal here.
I mean, honestly, let's say
mean,
like he has 3 cards in hand. Those are literally 3 plus 3Ks, and technically, as long as Foxy doesn't have any sort of negation effect, which I believe Purple doesn't have access. Oh, I guess there is the new 10 cost Kaido, but I think that might be leader locked. Then he will still have to go through that Captain John, which at least for now effectively counts as 1 more life. So he would have to get 3 attacks through, and he has 4 attacks on the board. Not impossible, but with those 3Ks, it can still be rather scary to do so.
absolutely. I mean, I think the real issue right now is those 7-cost Foxys reducing the entire board by 1,000 each, which means everything is minus 2,000. We're having it to attach a Dawn just to make 5k attacks with John. Shiki's only at 7k, just like the amount of power coming out of your board when your opponent still has 3 life definitely seems like a very tall hill to climb.
Yeah, I mean, this would be a huge difference between if Foxy was at 2 or 3 life right now. You could pretty confidently go for lethal given how small Foxy's hand size is right
Mm-hmm.
now. But because you need every single attack to go through if you want to go for lethal at this point, then he has to really think about how he wants to play out this turn, and importantly, if it's possible for him to survive. Because if he has the math and he knows that he will survive, then it's definitely better to just play the safer route.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is just a very difficult turn for Manoli, isn't it? I mean, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of cards in Hayden's hand. I don't think it's just 1. I think it was like 2 or 3. A little bit hard to tell.
Yeah, hard to tell from here, but definitely low on hand size now as he was able to get multiple cards out of his hand the turn before. And I mean, if Manoli has something like Stussy or something, even though it will only stun one of those higher power Foxies just due to the fact that there isn't any relevant attacker that's 6 cost or less, I still think it'll do quite a bit of work in this situation where you're just using this Captain John as a pseudo blocker in a way.
Yeah, I mean, Stussy is definitely very strong here. It's difficult for sure.
Yeah, and it looks like he might just be going for board once again, considering the number of Dongwei he's attaching. He's going to start with a 11,000 minus 2. That's going to be 9,000.
Oh, nope, that is Newgate first, so it's not going to be. Oh, you're talking
Yes.
about minus 2 from the Foxy. I'm so smart.
The minus 2k from the 2 Foxes on the board is going to give the entire board, all the characters at the very least, minus 1,000 power. So this is a 9,000 power attack, and he is going to take it, which is very helpful for Manoli.
Yeah, that is also going to increase all of his characters' power by 1,000 effectively on this turn. I mean, he still has Shiki's available. He can go after that other Foxy.
Yeah, that might even be the play. If Hayden refused to give up the 1k to protect that Foxy on this turn, now it only gets worse, right? Oh no, that's the 7 cost Foxy.
Yeah, it was
so
the
it's
7
a
cost Foxy.
2k, 1k. Yeah, but that also means that his entire board now not minus 2k anymore. It's only minus 1k.
Yeah, so I mean, I think there is definitely the choice, especially because you have that John. You aren't that scared. You can just go for the other Foxy, hope that you get this through without discarding a card. You still have access to the Shiki if you don't. And now we just take 1 life and hope that next turn we can get lethal.
Yeah. honestly, Manoli able to stabilize what seemed to be a pretty disastrous start of the game, just in terms of the raw curve that Hayden's had, but not seeing the 10 cost Kaido, having to play down that 7 cost Foxy instead of something like the 8 cost Foxy, I think has slowed down Hayden quite a bit when it came to this late game. Yeah. He's gonna get that last life though, so now down to 2 life, can actually look for lethal on this next turn if Hayden can't find it himself, but it's looking pretty difficult.
Absolutely. I mean, John is definitely doing a lot of work right now, making it so that, you are going to have to attach Dawn to one of those Porsches if you're looking for some extra damage or trying to go for lethal this turn. I definitely think, Rox might be able to pull it out here.
Yeah, no, Rox is in a really good spot. Like, this is the power of this deck where as long as you just keep playing down your characters, naturally your board's just going to become massive and the opponent just can't deal with it after a certain point of the game. This is the difference between Emu and Rox, unfortunately, where Emu, all of his characters are 5,000 power. Rox, once you get to these later turns, all of his characters 8, 9, 12,000 power.
So now going back to Hayden, how is he going to play out this turn? I mean, it really depends on what he has in his hand for sure.
I mean, what would you even want in your hand that can actually fix the situation? It's getting pretty rough.
It is getting pretty rough. It might just be a attached on and swing angle.
I think if he has the 10 cost Kaido, he might be able to hold on for 1 turn longer, especially if he has something like the slow beam. But it's so hard to tell how many cards are in his hand, but not very many. If he has exactly those 2 cards, it could be nice, but he still needs to translate that into a win somehow. So he does probably want to attach at least some Dong.
I mean, I think the biggest thing that he could have is the Megaton, right? Being able to restand your Foxy. If he is able to go for multiple attacks with Foxy, that's going to absolutely give him the opportunity to go for game. But it also comes down to, do we have another event in Manoli's hand? Because while he isn't going to be able to protect Captain John for every attack, it definitely seems like if you're going to attach Dawn and try to go after Captain John, just being able to use event +1 card to stop that attack, use it to stop another attack, you're probably not going to be able to get to lethal.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly completely forgot about that Megaton in Japanese Megaton QB Rush. But with that effect, I believe it was able to restand any Foxy.
Any Foxy. It is
Yeah.
not just leader.
So that 7 cost Foxy on the board can technically swing twice. So if he can just get over this Captain John that's on the board, then he can maybe break through for lethal, or maybe he just needs multiple Megaton QB Rush.
Yeah, I mean, multiple would probably be an answer. Looks like we're going Porsche first. He might just be trying to find it.
He could be. I mean, this is a way. It is a little bit expensive, but if that's the only out that you have, does look like he
That
picks
seems
it
like a
up.
beam sword.
Oh, might be beam sword. Just a little bit of a shiny beam sword, so it threw me off a bit. But does have the chopper to play off of it, so it has a blocker, which will be able to stall a little bit of time. Rox doesn't have a great way to get over some of those smaller blockers.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of other blocker options that could be available. Borsalino, another one that's seemingly being played. Yamato probably added to the deck as well as another one of those blockers that could be played off of Porsche. I mean, we might just be seeing another turn pulled out. We are seeing two Dawn up for Beam Sword, seemingly put off to the side. And we do see John come off the field.
Yeah, John is now off that magnet fruit finally being evaporated, which means that Hayden does have an avenue to close out this game somewhat soon. Doesn't have the dome left for Megalon Q Rush, so it would have to be on that next turn. But Vrock's probably going to look to try to end the game on the next turn if he can. Still might not be.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems. I don't think it's not easy. I think it's impossible. I mean, with two Dawn up, we already saw that. The beam sword is revealed information. I don't know how we win this turn, which makes it come down to how do we not lose next turn. All of our characters are up, so we don't even have access to stunning stuff with Shiki.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I will say that if you just swing with what's on the board and then you play down exactly Gloriosa into Stussy, everything on the board disappears or is stunned, and he probably can find lethal after that. But yeah, again, the slow beam sword in this deck, searchable, is so powerful. there's
Yeah.
going to be the +2 minusing one dong and resting the other shiki, effectively denying another attack, but doesn't have the rest of the counter, so will be taking that attack, just using it to get that resting effect.
Yes, but I mean, we still have a blocker on the field. We still have life. It definitely seems like Foxy is going to get another turn. So it comes down to, do we have that Gloriosa? Do we have that Stussy? Do we have a way to not just get lethal next turn?
I mean, he's looking for it for sure. One of the nice things about Rocks is that you can filter with your leader effect to find exactly the cards that you need. But because he hasn't had that for maybe going on 5 turns at this point, that means 5 less cards than he would have realistically had up until this point. It's crazy to think that he still has more cards than Foxy has despite that.
We do see the Gloriosa coming out, which is definitely going to be very strong, but it seems like we're missing the Stussy part of this combo. I
Yeah,
mean, we still have access to Double Shiki and Newgate. He might still be able to survive
I think
if
he's
we
still
don't get
fine.
Megaton.
I think he's still in a relatively fine spot. Foxy doesn't have great ways to deal with the opponent's smaller blockers as well, which means that he would just have to try to break through something like that Megaton. But I mean, it just comes down to the top deck. We know that he didn't search it off that Poiche before.
I mean, if we have something like Mamaragan into Megaton, that definitely seems like it would be enough to get there. Can't be for sure. This is so
Mm.
back and forth.
Oh, I forgot about Mamaragang. Absolutely treacherous card that exists. Would be able to get rid of that Gloriosa and probably open up a angle for lethal, just given the number of cards that are in Manoli's hand right now. But you have to remember, every single card in Manoli's hand right now is a plus 3k counter.
Absolutely. I mean, we could do something like a 5K with one of the Porsches, use Mamaragan to rest the Gloriosa blocker, and then Megaton the leader, trying to get around the Shikis. Seems like an option. I mean, it also comes down to how many of the cards in Manoli's hand are true counter rather than counter that can be used with Shiki or Newgate. Because, you know, if you have access to that restand
Mhm.
event, being able to use that on the leader, Shiki's not going to be able to do anything to that. We did see a lot of 2Ks being played as counter already.
Yeah, and that's actually a very good point. Even if you have that Megaton, you don't really want to use it on that 7 cost Foxy because the Shikis just annihilate it. So you would want to restand your leader with that effect. But I think the way that he's playing, he probably just doesn't have it in his hand.
Yeah, I mean, it might be one of those he has Moragan and is trying to figure out how to effectively attack without just giving away the free block.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you probably just use the Momonaga immediately if you have it, even though it would reduce 2 active dong instead of rested dong, because most assuredly Menoli will take the block the first second that he's able to.
Okay, and we do have time in round. This is going to be turn 0 of our extra turns.
Yes.
We have 3 turns or 5 minutes. I don't think we're going to go to 3 turns. Starting. Oh, nope. Not starting. We are starting off with an attack.
Yeah, 7k, which is going to be rather easy to deal with as I fix this as we talk a little bit more with that Shiki effect.
Yeah, I think we got a judge hopping in real quick and then immediately popping back out so that we could just mess with the stream overlay.
Yep. It's first time for everything. Don't worry, guys. We'll fix it as we keep going. But yeah, judge popping in, popping out to make sure that all the games are making sure that they're playing in time. Know that there is going to be a little bit of extra time in this round, but we are going into overtime. The game does need to end very soon, as my apologies, we still don't have the timer up on the screen. But starting with a 5k swing after that 7.
Yeah, so it does look like he's trying to bait out some things. We have seen the first Shiki used. I mean, it looks a little bit like if I had Restand plus Mamaragan, this is kind of how I would be playing the turn so far. So getting cards out of hand, making sure that, you know, we're not wasting any attacks.
I mean, I think if you had Mamaraga, you probably start with the 5k swing with the 3 dong on the Poruche, just to see if you can actually get real counter out of their hand before you force them to block it. Manoli did not give up the Gloriosa quite yet, so still has that option in hand.
I would argue if
But
you had Restand event, you wouldn't want to use Mamaragan before you had to commit with your leader, just because you would rather.
yeah, I mean, as you say that, that's 9k at leader with 3 dong active.
That looks like a Restand event. I mean, He hasn't used Newgate yet. Does he have the 2K?
Yeah, we'll need to stop both of these attacks. Has 3 cards left in his hand. Those Shiki effects are not going to be enough.
We do see the trigger to draw 1 card. He needs exactly 2K, 1 2K counter.
The Usopp event trigger, draw 1 card. He's going to try to find anything with counter.
We see the restand, another 9K. Does he have a 2K in hand? Newgate effect? And 2K, he has exactly enough counter.
Despite the fact that he can't filter with his leader effect, still manages to find the cards, and that is going to be game for Manoli, going 1-0 in the very first iKailaCup streamed game.
Yeah, I mean, absolute nail biter for sure. Coming down, I think he had exactly 3 cards in hand. Might have even gotten that 2K off of the trigger 1 draw from the Usopp event. Very close. I mean, Foxy definitely seems favored in the matchup, but Rox definitely has the tools available if he is able to get, those Newgates, those Shikis to try and come back in the matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a couple of YouTube videos online. One of my good friends, Renee, put out a video saying that Foxy cannot lose to Rox, but we just saw
it, yeah.
Yeah, as long as you just hold on to the game for as long as possible, maybe also not getting that 10 cost Kaido did contribute to that a little bit, but as long as you can survive for as long as you possibly can with that Captain John, with that Usopp event, and all of those minus 3Ks or plus 3Ks from Newgate or Shiki, you might be able to make it.